So the actors strike and the writers strike is finally done with, at least at this very moment. So I can finally talk about movies again, especially horror movies. And being that Saw is one of my favorite horror franchises, I need y'all to understand how difficult it was to not be able to talk about it so much. To not be able to talk about Saw X that came out this fall. Of course, if you subscribe to my Patreon, the $5 tier, then you've seen my movie review, because I figured if it was behind a paywall, it wasn't as horrible. I don't know. Anyhow, so with that all being said and done, let's talk about Saw X. Overall, I liked the movie alright. I liked it for what it was, and I did want to go see it again in theaters with somebody. That didn't happen, but that does tell you that I liked the movie. That being said, I did have a couple issues with the movie that did make it probably one of my least favorite films in the franchise. I don't know, it's a very mixed bag for me, my feelings about this movie. So if you weren't aware, Saw X is technically a prequel. It takes place between Saw 1 and Saw 2. And of course, in the very first Saw movie, it's mostly being taken place in one room, and then there's some B-plot happening, or part of the plot is happening outside of the room. So you don't really have a whole lot of backstory between a lot of the characters, and in fact, the main villain of the franchise is barely in the film except for like the very final minute. So for Saw X, or Saw 1.5, you get the backstory of John Kramer of Jigsaw. You also get a little bit of backstory about his apprentice Amanda and her feelings between Saw 1, Saw 2, and Saw 3. If I recall correctly, because for some reason it's leaving my brain, Amanda isn't in the original Saw for very long. She's mostly in the beginning because she's like the first victim that you actually see. So it's known that John Kramer is sick, he has cancer, and you get a bit of backstory with that in Saw X. However, the bit of backstory to me felt like way too long of a backstory. The movie is almost 2 hours long, and it feels like the first hour was dedicated solely to John Kramer and his beginning his cancer battle, trying to find treatment, etc., etc. It felt like it went on forever, and there were just things in there, in that backstory, that really didn't need to be in there. Like, for example, when he's being taken to that house, there is a moment where it looks like that they're going to be kidnapped, John and the driver. Honestly, I don't really see the point of that scene being in there. When we're watching Saw the franchise, at least from me, we're watching it for the traps, and then yeah, some of the B-plot that goes in with that. But this backstory was so long. I wanted a backstory. I wanted to learn more about John Kramer. But I don't know. I wouldn't have minded the length if it was all of parts, or mostly parts, that mattered. I just felt like it went on for a lot longer than it needed to. One of the main marketing points for this movie is the sucking eyeballs out trap. That was such a cool trap. It was so cool in the poster. It was so cool in the trailer. I did not watch majority of the trailers. I might have seen like a second or two of the trailers, but I wanted to go into the movie not knowing anything, or mostly anything. And I was really looking forward to that trap because it just looks so cool. Come to find out, it's fake and it didn't actually happen. It was all a part of John's imagination. The victim of the trap is going to steal from a comatose patient, and John was thinking it up in his head, and you do see the trap acted out. It's not a complete miss. You're not completely disappointed, but there's something about it just being an imagination, an imagined sequence was a little bit of a bummer. But at the same time, it goes to show that if John sees somebody changing their mind, then he's like, alright, I'm gonna give you a pass here. We're not gonna, take your eyeballs out and break your fingers. It was a brilliant marketing tactic, though. I don't know how well the movie did, but clearly that trap and the marketing part behind it all got people in. Wire trap is gross. The taking the wire on the leg and having to take your leg off with the wire. That was gross. Made me squirm. I think that is the most disgusting trap to me, besides the, what is it called? I forget the name of it, but I think it's in Saw 3, and the guy is, held up like this, and his arms get twisted and bones break. That trap disgusted me. For me, the slower the trap is, the worse that is for me. So something like those two traps, having to use a wire on yourself, just more disgusting and than just taking a cleaver and having to chop your arm off. The ending was really weird to me. It gave me this, if you've seen Legally Blonde, the end of it fades out into white when the doors open, and I felt like I was almost watching Legally Blonde for a moment. Doors open, fading to heaven, white thing felt so off to me being in a Saw movie. Am I watching a Hallmark movie? Am I watching a Lifetime movie? Am I watching Legally Blonde? What is this? I just kind of did like the idea of a kid being there, and you see John have this moment. Amanda had this moment as well. We don't want kids involved. They're innocent. We gotta work to save this kid because this isn't what was supposed to happen. I do wonder though, somebody had this theory. I think a couple people had this theory. Did that kid grow up to be the guy that was in Spiral, the Book of Saw, which is a movie I don't like? Which is a shame because I like the main lead that's in it, but I just didn't like the movie. I don't know if that theory is true, but it could make sense. Also about the ending, people said that Cecilia got off easy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Cecilia not trapped in that room forever? Yeah, you can stick your head out the hole that's in the wall, but other than that, you're stuck in there forever. I guess unless somebody were to find out about the place that it's in and let her out, but I don't think they can let her out. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again. From what I recall, she's stuck in there forever. That was the point. That seems like a horrible way to live out the rest of your life. And then last but not least, the really big thing that was being talked about is the aging and lack of de-aging in the film. So obviously this is being filmed 20 years after Saw 1, Saw 2, so people have aged. Tobin Bell has aged, and the woman who plays Amanda has aged. It's the same thing with Orphan, the sequel to Orphan that is also supposed to be a prequel. Esther is supposed to be 7 or 8 years old in the prequel, but because the actress obviously got way older, she's not a little kid anymore. Granted, she still looks young enough that she could get away with playing somebody younger, but 8 years old, not really. People wondering why there wasn't some sort of de-aging technology. I mean, that stuff is expensive. I will say this, it worked in Tobin Bell's favor, I want to say, because he's sick with cancer, right? He's supposed to look sickly. But of course, when you watch Saw 1 or Saw 2 and then move on to Saw 3, he obviously doesn't look as sick as he would now because he's so much older now. My only real main problem with how Amanda looked was just that weird wig. I don't know. In Saw 2, her hair is very messy. It's a pixie cut. It's messy, She's supposed to be looking a little unhinged, right? So obviously I'm not expecting her to look like that in this prequel. That wig wasn't doing very much for her, and that's not her fault. It's just kind of one of those things where you gotta try your hardest to not pay any attention to the fact that it is obvious that they are 20 years older. But again, what can you really do except for spend a lot of money on software? I mean, I don't know how much that would cost, but I imagine it's going to take up a lot of the budget that they had. But yeah, overall, I liked the movie. I would definitely watch it again. It's just not my favorite of the franchise. Because I think for me, I just prefer the traps, a little bit of B-plot, and that's it, versus a very long, drawn-out backstory. Apparently there is going to be another film, or there's a possibility of there being more films. Well, John's dead, so I don't really know what we're gonna do with that, but I guess we shall see if that happens. Oh, and the ending credits with Hoffman. I liked it. I did think it was a little too short and a little bit weird. I expected there to be a little bit more done with Henry, considering he kind of started it all to begin with. Anyhow, if you've seen it, let me know what you thought of the movie down below in the comments. I'm very excited to be able to start talking about movies and things again. So there are definitely a couple more films that I want to talk about. The Exorcist movie, and I need to watch Five Nights at Freddy's. So if you would be excited for those movies, definitely subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you hopefully do not miss out on any uploads. Other than that, if you would like to see more movie reviews and things like that, be sure to become a supporter of my Patreon. For the $5 tier, you will get movie reviews and book reviews, things like that. There's all sorts of other extra content that's added on there, so that helps me watch more movies and get that content out to you. If Patreon isn't your thing, you can't do a monthly commitment, that's completely understandable. There is a super thanks down here in the corner, so you can do a one-time tip that is part of this video and goes straight to the YouTube check. So that is definitely very helpful as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I very much appreciate it, and I will see you later. Bye.